here, still standing, better than we ever did. This is the Community Solutions Podcast, and I am Jason Bradley. With me, Andrew Richter.
I'll tell you what, I told you I went back to Best Buy recently.
Yeah.
I am not, I still consider myself very young. I just have to say this real quick.
That's good.
I'm old. Okay, my stomach is a little bigger than it used to be.
40 is the new 35, so... I
don't know anymore, because I used to be able to do this overnight construction stuff like it was nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to say this. Tuesday morning, my wife can verify this, I could not move when I got home. My feet, my arms, my back, my knees, everything's hurting. The only thing that could make me feel worse, I think, is talking about what's going on in New Brighton right now. That might be the only thing that makes me feel worse.
Oh, I think there's
as a coincidence. No, I'm just kidding.
That's good.
I just, I tell you what, it's so depressing. Somebody sent me I put a link on Facebook about the 87 Twins. That's now 30 years ago.
Right.
When they won the World Series, so they finally get back to the playoffs and, of course, get beat. But I'm just like, God, was that really 30 years ago? Was that really 30 years ago? WrestleMania 3, it was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Really?
That's the way it was.
I watched that.
It seems like it just, like a snap of a finger, it's done. 30 years... There's gray in the beard.
There is, I know.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
That's what happens. Oh, well. We've got a lot of stuff to cover. We better not fool around a bunch today. We have City Council member Gina Bauman and City Council hopeful Susan Erickson with us today. Again.
New Brighton.
Of New Brighton.
I set it up.
Yes.
See how I set that up?
That is good. We wanted to do a check-in with an election coming up in about a month and just make sure that we keep on top of that, because I know you're all excited about it. And like we have always said, when we're talking about other cities, we're really talking about your city too, because a lot of these things happen in every city.
They are. Let me tell you something. If plagiarism existed in government, okay, 99% of people in government would be in prison. That's all I can say. Go to one. Remember, you did our comprehensive plan thing we did. We were on AM 1280.
Yes.
It didn't matter what city we were in. It all said the same thing.
Yeah.
It was all walkable.
But let me take it a step further. How many people are we in talks with right now where, like, oh, that reminds me of Crystal. That reminds me of Crystal. That reminds me of Crystal. And it's the attitudes of the people in power. It's not what they've written. It's how they say things, how they treat people, their desperation to hold on to power and belittle people that challenge it.
They're everywhere.
Yes.
There's an old saying, you can't fight City Hall, we don't buy it.
That's right.
Absolutely. We don't buy it at all. Okay, well.
Yes.
Thanks again, you guys, for joining us. It's great to have you. We had a tremendous amount of fun at our last one. Such great subjects we talked about in that. Why don't we start, Jay, here by letting you two kind of give your little spiel here with what you're doing, why you're running for election, re-election, whatever that is. Give us, we'll do this at the end too, give us your website info, anything like that. Gina, we'll start with you. You're the incumbent running for another term. What's your spiel to everybody to re-elect you again for City Council in New Brighton?
Well, thank you for having us.
Sure. Absolutely.
Okay, so this is my 12th year, so this would be my 4th term if I won again. I guess I would say for myself, as corny as this sounds, right, that I believe I serve the people and not myself. Too many people that run an office today are more self-serving. But I also try and tell people in my 12 years I have protected their rights and I have served them. But with honesty, integrity, I think that's really important. I think we've lost a lot of that in not only politics, but I think just in people, period. They just don't understand that at all. They'll do anything to win. I am the kind of person, I have budgeting and finance experience extensively. I am somebody who relates to the people. I go out there and I talk to the people. I think I'm approachable, and people do talk to me a lot about what they're. I don't care if you're in Cub or wherever you are. My family kind of makes a joke when I'm out with them. I'm not going in the store with you today because you're just going to be in there a really long time because somebody's going to stop and talk to you. And they're joking, but it does happen. And I like that, though. You have to be that person. You can't be everything to everybody, but you sure in the heck need to know, and they need to know that you are there for them because they're busy. You know, people are busy in their lives. And so they expect from the people that they elect that they will do the best they can for them and look out for them. Although I wish a little bit people were more involved and have that kind of reciprocity when it comes to governing, you know. But basically, so I'm running again. I'm kind of that lone voice. I think people might have read about that too in the Star Tribune. I understand.
Well, of course they've read it. We talked about it on the last podcast. So everybody's
yeah, that's exactly right. And actually, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's kind of one of those things that you're not trying to be combative or somebody who is trying to make a statement for the wrong reasons. You've done something that'll stand up and not be part of this group of people who tend to get reelected a lot, and then say one thing and do another. So that's what I'm just running again. I believe that I'm probably the person that people trust the most to represent them, and I just want to continue to do it.
Cool.
Very good.
All right. Miss Sue Erickson, you're up.
All right, awesome.
Let's hear it.
Well, I too want to represent all the people of New Brighton. I think I can do a good job at it. I've been following the council actions for about 10 years. I either watch them online or I am there in person. And I really want to get more people involved because I think they would be very enlightened if they went to a council meeting. I've been out lit dropping and the entire city already, and I have met some great people. I'm very encouraged by the response. Everybody was positive.
Good.
They're telling me their concerns, which I'll try to fix if I'm elected. And we're going to be going out door knocking yet this week and putting up signs. And so it's been very positive for me.
Good. Now, real quickly, where do we find you guys on the web?
I'm on Facebook, Susan Erickson, the number 4 council.
Okay. Gina?
And I'm Gina Bauman for City Council.
Okay, cool. Okay, so why don't we hop right into the big fun stuff that's happening in the city? You guys had a nice Gina. You can address this a little bit in depth, but we've done a lot of budget shows the last few months, and just to remind people again, city councils have till September 30th to submit a preliminary budget, which goes to the county, which collects taxes locally here in Minnesota. And then you finalize that in December with a lie, truth, and taxation hearing. Sorry, Twitch. And then the you set a max levy, and you can go below that, but you can't go above that in December. So the councils can bring that down. They can't go above what they set as a max levy. And as we've discussed, there's things that don't appear on a levy. Like,
right.
Your fee schedule is done separately. Yeah. If you have franchise fees, they're not part of the levy, and all those fun things that sometimes don't show up. Gina, since you're on the council, why don't you share what happened during the budget process this year? I know you kind of filled with that during the summer, and then September comes along and you have to set a max levy. What can you share with us about New Brighton's wonderful things their taxpayers can look forward to when they get their sticker shock in the mail? You get it in November, folks, the preliminary that comes out.
It does, and it is going to be a sticker shock. They will tell you, it's funny you say this about other cities, and cities tend to do a comparisons of other cities.
Yes.
So they
they
put
do.
their name in there. So New Brighton always goes, we're like the second lowest of the 12 cities. And actually, New Hope is in there, that kind of thing. So they say they're the lowest per capita. They'll do it any way they can to be the lowest.
Yeah.
However, in our city, it is not low. We are a very high tax city. We are going up another 9.63%. Now, what they will say to you is, okay, it's a percentage, which I agree. So what's the real dollar? It's almost $800,000 this year. That's a lot of money.
It is.
And the only way they decided to cut a little, they wanted to not have it be 10%. It was going to be 10. So now it'd be 9.63. And the only
Oh, that's a 0.37 deduction.
yeah, and you know how they did that is they said, well, we just won't hire two people that we intend to hire next year, but not until June. So
Right.
that's how they actually cut the levy. So I do budgeting a little bit differently, and I said this during the time that we did set the preliminary levy. Is I do budgeting a little different. So when I'm a zero-based budgeter, which means you start over.
Yeah.
So many people are baseline budgeters.
Started what they got last.
Yeah, and then what they do is they
Add on.
to that maybe 3% or whatever they want to add on.
Right.
But it compounds every year. You don't even think twice about what you're spending money on. You just know you're going to get that money and you're going to keep on spending.
Yeah.
Myself, I say, no. Core services, you basically know what they're going to cost you, but you can still reflect on what you've spent and what works, what doesn't work, and take out some of that in the budget. So anyway, I'm one of those people who do that. So I try and explain this to people, plus local government aid. I am very much against putting local government aid in a general fund.
No, we should mention you guys are a net receiver of
Correct.
local government
Yeah.
aid.
Correct.
Okay.
Over $500,000, almost $600,000.
Okay.
And they basically have spent this over the course of time in the general fund. So now they have to think, oh, we might have to start pulling this out in case we don't get it the next year. So how do you do that? Well, you've already spent quite a bit of money.
And you've been telling them this for years.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And so
Finally taking your advice?
yeah, but it was my fault that they had to do it in the first place. So and so we basically now have this issue that we are taking local government aid. Administration costs are going up almost 5% alone. And if you really think about that, that's just really hiring and salary increases. It's not
Benefits.
Yeah, what is it that you get out of that? And I know people like to say return on investment. I'm a big believer of a realized gain. And I think that's a difference. I can say, oh, this person did this. Oh, I really, I got a return on that, but it wasn't anything realized.
And I'll tell you, you talk about comparing to other cities. That's something they really compare to other cities a lot. The police department in this city got 4%,
Yes.
or this city manager got 3%,
Yes.
or they only make this, so we have to copy what everybody else is doing.
And you know why they do that is I call it regurgitation. So each person that has worked at one city and tends to go to another city.
Yes, they do.
And so by doing that, they regurgitate themselves. I call that's probably not a nice word, but
Hey, call it what it is.
and so they go around from city to city to city, and they're the ones that set the
Yeah.
No, they
their
all talk. They all
salaries.
talk to each other.
Yeah, and so this exactly. So you have these
They're
cities,
clubs, if you will.
and our city manager got to bring in his own contract this year, and he actually redlined it, brought it in, and he got everything he wanted on it, plus a dump of like $5,000 into his pension.
And didn't the mayor just say at a recent meeting that he was underpaid by 11%?
And he makes about $155,000.
Yeah, add benefits. You're
Yeah.
looking at 200.
Yeah.
It's
Sue, are you
amazing.
ready for this?
I am ready.
Does this excite you to run? No, you go to a lot of meetings and work sessions.
I do.
What do you make of what you're hearing? I mean, do you agree with Gina? Do you see this as do you agree with us that this process is just
It is
pull
a
your
crazy,
hair out?
It is
Yeah.
a crazy process. I will admit that, but I am behind Gina 100%. She has common sense. They don't have common sense.
Yeah, well, I know, Andrew, you and I have always said that a budget cut is not a gain that you didn't get. You know,
Right.
where it's like, we want to raise the budget by 3,000.
We got 3% last year.
Yeah.
If we get 2% this year, it's a 1% cut.
Right. No, that doesn't work that way. And just looking, New Brighton has a population of over 22,000. About how many households is that? Because that's not a reflection, really, of you have $800,000.
Yep.
It's not being paid by 22,000 plus people. It's being paid by the number of households.
Right around 9,000.
Right around 9,000. So 9,000 households paying for $800,000. That is.
I don't like that math.
That's like $75,000 a household.
What?
I'm sorry. Move the decimal. Worse, I'm from northern Minnesota.
Oh, my goodness.
No, sorry.
I heard they got color TV up there now.
Just move the decimal over. You know what I'm talking about. You guys had it figured out.
It's enough.
Before it
It's
flew
a
out of my
lot.
mouth.
And remember this, folks. I always say this. You know, when electricity gets to Jason's hometown, they figure this out. But because things are done on a... it's not just 800,000 divided by the number of households. No. It's done by value of a home. So your home can go up a little. Somebody could see a 12% increase. Somebody could see a 4% increase. Yeah. It's very weird how we do property taxes.
Right, and it's not necessarily tied to how much your home is worth.
No, it's a net increase in the home's value.
Yes.
Compared to the median household value.
Yes.
It's all designed to make sure government gets money, whether you go up or down or lose money or whatever it is. They get their money first and you get whatever's left. So remember, in New Brighton, somebody might get a 12-13% increase.
Yes.
It's possible.
It is possible.
Yeah.
And
it's probable.
Yeah.
And it is, because this is something for maybe another show, but I've never liked the home market value credit.
Yeah.
Because technically, if you have any home over $416,000, you don't get that credit at all, and so you're paying for the homes that are maybe worth $150,000.
Yeah, you're subsidizing.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And so people will get a 10-15% increase the more you do this. And just like you said, if you cut something, I said this in my meeting. If I say I want to go to 5% or 2%, I'm not cutting the budget. I'm cutting the increase that you wanted to have of spending. Yeah. But people say, oh, you cut the budget. No, I cut the increase in the budget. So it's kind of this, and we all know this, people in government tend to tell you what you think you want to hear and how we can say it to you so that you really don't know what I'm saying.
Right. Uh-huh.
And that just kind of didn't make sense there either. But it's,
right.
You know,
Greek, Swahili, whatever you want to, language you want to put it in. So 9.63% is what we're looking at here. Now, So the largest part is just in personnel. Mm-hmm. You mentioned the LGA not being in the general fund.
Oh, it still is.
Okay, but
they're slowly taking it out.
Okay.
And by doing that, you have to make up what you're no longer putting into the general fund to spend. And now they this is going to get too complicated because it's, we're only going to go maybe up to 100,000 of taking it out and not, but we're getting like $100,000 more than the last time. So if you do that, did you really take anything out? You didn't. You just didn't put the increase in there. It's the local government aid and then street reconstruction, which I am totally okay with.
So you have your revolving fund that
our CIP
puts money in and takes money out. Yeah. Okay. That sound like fun to you?
Oh, this sounds like riots. I just love it. I'm ready. I have been. I was on the planning commission in 2014 and 15, and
we all remember how you're not on it anymore.
I know. I'm not on it anymore. But no, I'm very excited to try to help make a difference because the people don't realize where New Brighton is going. They're not going to like what it looks like if some of these people get in power.
Well, I mean, tax-wise, it looks like you guys are right on the heels of New Hope, so that's good.
Well, I thought, okay, so New Hope, I'm thinking, yeah, New Hope might be one of the cities they compare to, but they're not real far ahead of us. That's
Right.
But do we truly know? Unless I go into every city and look at the numbers myself, I'm not sure where my city's getting the numbers to make sure they're on the bottom.
And
Right.
remember, like what we talked about, all the things that aren't in the levy.
Exactly.
There's a lot of revenue, or as we call it, tax dollars. There's cities that get LGA that don't get LGA. There's cities who have franchise fees and don't. There's cities who put more in their rainy day funds than another city does. I mean, there's cities that use grant money to supply something. It is hard to get a handle on. From there's cities that are bigger than others, that have more industrial property, which is taxed at a different property tax classification wise. It's a convoluted mess that I think is very simple for somebody to play with numbers and make look good or bad.
Exactly.
So I think you and I are the only two who do it honestly, to be honest.
Well, that may
Honestly,
very well
to
be
be
the
honest.
case.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a mess, and I think we need to look at a way to do it differently. But
Then people's eyes glaze over, right? So
Yeah.
we can talk all day about how this happens because proposed rate for 2019 in our city is $1 million more.
Now, do you guys do a 2-year budget?
No.
Okay, so you already have a proposed
Yes.
2019.
19 budget is $1 million.
So how many more years can it go up $1 million?
Well,
Remember, we're talking about the city portion
right.
of your taxes. Forget
Correct.
the county, forget the school
Right.
district, forget your watershed or whatever else you get taxed on, park district, Met Council. We're talking about one levy here. Now, every one of them goes up $1 million a year. That's real money at some point.
Yeah.
It is. I don't know. So that's what I'm saying. But, it is one of those subjects, right, that everyday people kind of go, that's too much detail. That's too much for me.
Yeah, it's complicated on purpose.
It is. And so then they go, well, but then the city will say, it's a cup of coffee. Every month
Latte a day.
It's just a cup of coffee a month, or it's just, something more a month. They had told me that last year it was a cup of coffee, $3 a month. My taxes went up $125 a year. So it's not.
If it's just a cup of coffee, how come they can't deal with a cup of coffee
I know.
less?
Yeah.
Hey, it's just a cup of coffee.
Yeah, but when you're paying a cup of coffee to the city, paying a cup of coffee to the county, paying a cup of coffee to the Three Rivers Park District,
You
to the Met
have a lot of
Council,
energy if you're doing that. I mean, that's
you're wired for
yeah,
days.
no kidding.
And we're going to have a very large school levy too this year.
Yeah.
What district are you
Moundsville.
Moundsville. Okay.
165 million.
Wow. That's the levy, or that's
a
the
levy.
referendum?
That's
Do you have a referendum going on?
That's
or-
yes.
That's the proposed.
Yeah.
Proposed.
So is that November 7th being
Yes.
voted on
Yes.
too? Well,
Yes.
so is that something? Interesting thing, because I remember when people ran in Crystal, there was a Robbinsdale School District had a levy
Yes.
going on. Do you guys get asked about
Yes.
the levy?
Well,
ever?
just by a couple people.
Yeah, not too much.
No.
I don't think that they're.
Warning to the wise: look for that question at your debate.
Oh.
Hey, I know what the planted questions are going to be.
Yeah, they're the same
Oh,
everywhere.
don't you want your property value? You've got to vote for the children, right?
Right.
You can't challenge what school districts want.
My response to people who have asked about it is take a look at your property tax statement and see what the renewed 2 levies were in 2015, add them together and double it, and that's what your new levy will be.
So they passed the levy in 2000.
They renewed 2 levies in 2015.
Okay.
But the one levy is the one that they'll have to double.
Right.
There's 2015. You know how they always the school district gets to always have a non-voted levy, right? So it's like $35 million a year, whatever it is. In the
They
school
want to go
district.
past that. They have to ask.
Yes. So they always have that one there.
Yeah.
Then in 2015, you know how they tell you that your taxes won't go up if you vote for this levy. Well, your taxes did. It's kind of like paying for your home, and it's all
Yeah.
paid for. Well, your mortgage company said, "Oh, by the way, why don't you keep paying us anyway?" So it did go up, but then that was an $82 million levy. This is 100, so double that.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you pay all three.
So you have one levy question or two?
One.
One. So this is an increase.
Yes.
For how
Right.
long?
It's 5.
7 years.
Is it 7?
I think it's 7. 2023.
Yeah, and 2020 is the other one goes off, yeah.
So my question then would be, and I'm sure the answer is readily available for this, based on the increases in the levy and how much we're looking at. How much did test scores go up, and how much did the graduation rate increase?
You know, I don't want to get too much into school districts because it's really not our deal.
It's not your deal. But yeah,
here's
they ask you.
here's what the analogy I'll give you. We have a great school district. Mounts View has one of the top school districts, no doubt. But it didn't mean that it was because of money. Right? Money doesn't make it all better. We know St. Paul got all the electronics they wanted, and it still didn't help them.
Right.
I always tell people, they go, well, in order to keep that school district that going this great, we have to do this. So I said, okay, you like your school district. I love my daughter, right? So my daughter's a great kid. She's going to come up to me and say, Mom, I want $1,000. And I'm going to say, well, you're such a great kid, and you did really well. I'm just going to give you that $1,000 without question because you're such a great kid. No, I'm going to say, what the heck you want with $1,000? So we don't do that, right? We just go, oh, but we need this. The kids need it.
Well,
we have a great school district.
No correlation between money and academic performance.
But I just want to say, you answered my question right, Gina. I mean, you said, I'm with the city. I really don't have anything to do with the school district.
Right.
And that's what they still try to push, that, well, no, you need to tell me whether you're for it or against it. And our listeners out there, you need to understand, the city does not deal with whether the school district charges more money or not, wants to up the amount of taxes they collect. That has nothing to do with the school district. With the city council. So when they ask that question, put your fingers in your ears and go la 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 la, because it's the answer doesn't matter.
Well, after your brilliant math last time, you made up for it with that.
I went to public schools.
I knew it wasn't 75,000.
The referendums didn't help me.
Okay,
that's why I'm in music.
You can sing about it.
Yes.
Okay, let's get back in. I want to just first say something. You guys are running New Brighton's at-large city, so it's a citywide election.
Yep.
There are 6 people in the race for 2 spots, so just to let everybody know that.
Correct.
That we know the right 2 to vote for it, but there's 6 people on the ballot. What has it? Where do you sense that? I don't know how to ask this, but where do you sense you are in the campaign right now? I mean, do you feel like the wind is behind you? Do you feel like you're how do you think it's shaping out at the moment?
I feel good about it. We got our lit out right away. Early voting or absentee in-person voting started September 22nd, and we had all our lit out.
It's amazing how early that starts, isn't it?
I know.
You sign up for a race in August, and people are voting already in September.
Already. Yeah, we had 30 days to get our lit out. We did. We talked to so many people in New Brighton. Of course, most of the people know Gina.
Yeah,
they recognize her when she comes up to the door. So, no, I'm feeling very good about it.
Okay, now let me ask you a question.
All right.
Since you're not an incumbent and you've sat and watched all this happen, when you get in, okay, when you get elected and get on the council, I like to ask people this: what's like 1 or 2 things that you really, really want to change right away? I mean, what if you had a little bucket list of things you want to get done and you want to spearhead, so to speak? What would they be? What's the? It's kind of like a motivator of why you're doing this. I mean, what do you really want to see happen?
Well, and people that I've been talking to in the city say the city doesn't enforce any of its ordinances. So I would like to have all ordinances enforced, and then I also want to, have somebody review every ordinance. If they're not applicable anymore, let's get rid of them.
Love that idea. Where does that sound like? It was another city that did that.
I think.
It was this great guy who chaired that task force. I'm trying to think. He's sitting like really close to me. Yeah, wasn't that great? Yeah, we had a great
turncoat who left the city. That guy.
That's right, that terrible guy. So what's? I mean, do you hear ordinance complaints from residents? I mean, is that something?
Yes, I do. I've heard there's a parking restriction overnight. That doesn't happen. Nobody ever gets a ticket for that. A few years ago, we passed a chicken ordinance, or fowl, whatever. They're fowl. And that has not been enforced. People who own chickens were told to register them by January 1 of 2016, I think. Nobody registered that I know of. There's complaints about that. There's complaints about other large animals on properties, and
that's interesting. What, hippopotamuses or something like that?
more like a donkey.
A donkey. Let me see that outside your kitchen window or something. Hey, there's a donkey in my yard. Who do you call? I don't know. Call the city. What's the city clerk going to do? I don't know. Okay, well, Gina, I'm going to pose the same question to you. Being on the council and maybe not having people like Sue's thinking with you. I mean, you're running for a fourth term, and you mentioned things. But I mean, what you talked about what motivated you to run again. But what do you want to? What else do you want to change issue-wise that we haven't mentioned?
I don't know if it's so much. Well.
Or is it attitude?
Well,
we'll get into that in a sec.
Let's not go there yet. But well, dynamics change always on the councils, and I just still think that the community itself. What I would like to do is, how do I get them engaged? How can you tell them? Because when we did go out, there was this stark realization that these people, on some of the things we voted on, they had no idea how it was going to impact them.
So there's still a detachment.
Yes, and how do you? They'll go, why is that? Why do they get to do that over there? And I said, well, there was a meeting on it, and it was voted on. I have one neighborhood where a business wanted to come in and build their building in between two homes. The people all along this road said, I don't want that, and so, I'm more of the let's look at what the community wants in that area and let's vote it that way. It was a 4-1. But I know when I door knocked or lit dropped too, right. I get this from people, which I really feel really good about a lot, is they go, we know you always stick up for us. We can always count on you to do that. Because I didn't vote for that. I listened to the community. But how do you get, until it reaches their yard, their backyard, how do you get people engaged? How do you inform them? They don't have to be a part of it always.
Yeah, there is a syndrome out there that until you're working on my street, I'm not paying attention.
Right.
We've run into that too, and I think it's something that has to be changed with this country, just generally speaking. That what happens at City Hall has a far bigger impact than what happens in Washington or St. Paul. Not saying they can't have an impact. I ain't saying that. But I'm saying the biggest impact you can make is in your front yard.
Yeah. It is.
Thousands of miles away.
And remember, the way that city usually puts out their messaging is a newsletter, right? But who gets to write that letter? The city staff or the city manager. Yeah. Well, they're not going to really be as, and I always hate that we use the word transparent, but they're not really telling you everything that's going on and how it really
got there. And there's no counterbalance.
Absolutely not.
No. And that's one of the things that I've appreciated at Crystal is that, each council member has put out, like on nextdoor.com, on their Facebook accounts. There's been Twitter activity. This is what's going on, or we're going to be discussing this. And I think communication is huge. Are there any ways that you see you can improve upon the communication of the city with the residents, whether as an individual council member or improving the way that the staff?
Well, I will tell you, when we were out lit dropping, I would get people to, the first thing I usually say, people like to duck in their houses real quickly sometimes when you have something in your hand. So I always say, I'm not selling anything, but a lot of people know who you are. Right. And so they say, can you come here? I got to show you this. Or can you? So I had that. And what I did is I text myself what they were talking about, where I can find these people, and what the issue was. So then I ended up going a couple days later to one of my meetings, and I found out all the answers, and I went back to their homes.
That's great.
So if there's just that little bit of touching somebody that way, engaging with them one-on-one, but you don't get to do that very often, besides going out there. So I don't know how yes, you can do social media, but there are some age, a lot of times you live in communities where people are a little older.
Right.
They don't have that. We are discussing that actually in our city. How can we do that better?
Well, I always say this: communication is a two-way street. People have to get involved and not wait for something to come to your door. That's
true. I mean,
I know it's. I get flack sometimes for saying that, but if you want a job, if you want something like that, the job's not going to knock on your front door. If you want a girlfriend, the girlfriend's not going to knock on your front door either. Okay, so there's some things you have to go out and make an effort to find out. But what I found, and this maybe again sounds corny, sounds cliche, old-fashioned. Once you establish a relationship with a resident, that relationship grows and grows and grows usually. And they know you're the person to come to. If they have a question, a concern, your email, your phone number is boom, right at the top of the list. So when you get somebody, just a short story. I won't take up too much time, I promise. But when I ran in Crystal, I remember somebody asked me, I tried to give them my spiel at the door, and the guy said, I got a question for you. I was going to put something on do I need a permit to redo my driveway or something like that? And I'm like, and I didn't want to say something wrong. I'm like, oh, well, I'm a candidate now. It was John Sutter. I got this guy's number on speed dial. Yeah. Well, it sure took me a while standing there to get an answer, but I thought I was a big shot. But I got this guy an answer, and the guy, I think, ended up voting for me. But it was at that time I didn't quite know how to close the deal and stuff as well as I would looking back at it. But it was cool to get the guy an answer right then and there. And he's like, well, gee, that was great that you did that for me. But again, I don't think I was the best at closing the deal back then. But, it is something where, you don't want the public to think of you as your enemy. You live in the same city and, all that stuff. So, but it is important because once you establish that relationship usually goes on and on and on and on and on. So,
absolutely. So, communication. Do we want to talk about communication a little bit more?
Sure.
Do you have something else on your list you want to talk about? No, I don't have anything else
on my list. I'm not even looking at it.
There have been some interesting communications from the city in the form of work sessions and things like that. I don't know if you want to expound on that a little bit. I know, Gina, you've kind of been in the forefront and the recipient of some of the communications. I would say this is how not to communicate on the mayor's part, but to each their own, I guess.
How to conduct yourself correctly, right? Diplomatically, at least. It didn't happen, did it?
No, it didn't.
For all the people who don't know, it has been put out on Facebook. Sue has put it out on Facebook. It's kind of out there. we had a meeting Tuesday night, and we got the state of the state city, and that was great. And then we had, since February, the mayor and our city manager have met with people of color in our community and wanted to start a task force for on diversity and with diverse people.
No, I have to chime in here.
Yes.
I only say this, I don't say this mockingly. A diversity task force to do what?
That's exactly what another council member said, and I have said this numerous times. So thank goodness there was somebody else to say something like that. And what is the purpose? They get to decide. That's what the mayor said. They are going to get together and decide. And I thought, no, they don't. What is it, I believe, as a city government, the body of the city, what is it we're not doing that's right for these people, and what can we do to make it right if they have some issues? But don't create things, don't say they get to, and then what this will do is maybe form a commission. Mm-hmm. Well, there was another council member that said it really well. He said, what about the old people? What about the people who are in certain parts of your own city? You do know that people don't feel they're a part of that city because just their locations. I mean, they might be across a freeway and they're going, we never feel like we're in New Brighton. And so what about those people who don't feel part of the city? And that wasn't well received by our mayor. That isn't the outcome she wants. So another council member brought up white privilege and how we're not able to really represent people because we've had white privilege, and kind of went into a little bit of that scenario. So I kind of said, okay, I need to say something here. I took a bit of exception with that, simply because who said because I'm white I had privilege my whole life, or I grew up, and I just explained that I grew up in an Italian neighborhood in Northeast Minneapolis, and they weren't always well received, and it isn't like you grew up wealthy but you technically was a community within a community at that point. And they learned and assimilated. They learned English and they assimilated. They got jobs, and it was your family, your community, your church, and so it wasn't government. Mm-hmm. And I didn't say all of that, but what I just said was I grew up, and so I wasn't privileged. And then I said, if we're going to look at people of color, just the color of their skin, why not instead let's look at their traditions or their cultures and try and understand what
why do they feel the way they do?
Right. And
now, not being enthusiastic about a task force to do something is considered white privilege.
Yes.
That's the definition now.
Yeah, if you don't, this community, there was a certain community that she was explicitly talking about, and they happened to be in a Hispanic community, and she said that she has met with these people. My issue with that is why didn't they come to the whole council as they were meeting with all of these people in the community? Because then we could have taken part in that and seen where they were coming from, all of us. Well, she was going to decide who was going to be on this commission or this task force. And so I just took exception with all of it. And I work with people from all over the world. I've had...
Well, doesn't anybody take exception to the mayor appointing their own task force?
Yes.
You're going to do this, and shouldn't you all pick the people who are on it? Shouldn't it be from the entire city of New Brighton? Shouldn't it include all races and genders?
The city manager had a list of 8 people all ready to go.
Wow. So they were already told they were going
basically. They basically said who they were, and that we could start out with them, and then we could always change them or not. And then one council member said, basically, if you're Northern European, you're not going to be on this task force.
Oh, so it's really diverse then.
Yeah, and so...
Or if you're old, you can make your own task force.
Yes, somebody said that too. Well, what about, our seniors? And well, then you can have them do their own, and that's what the mayor said too. So it kind of got, so all I said was that kind of, I just mentioned that. I didn't really, say anything, but then it was the mayor's turn, if you want to call it, to speak, and
Mayor Val Johnson.
Mayor Val Johnson, and she basically, I was the reason we needed this task force, is because of people like me who don't understand white privilege. And then she called me that I was racist because I said what I said.
It sounds like she doesn't know racism if it ran her over.
No. And she really, it was on air. It was part of our meeting. And to call somebody that is, you don't do that, especially in public, and you have no and I said, you have no basis for that. So, of course, I went back at her and stopped her. And she said, I'm not through, I'm not finished,
You're out of order.
And I'm out of order. And I just told her she was out of line. And it was a very poor exchange. And she swore at me. She said, if I can, anyway, she said, God damn it, Gina. And I thought, you don't do that. One, I wouldn't take God's name in vain like that, but she did that. And I thought, that isn't a mayor. This is your mayor.
Right.
And this is somebody who's supposed to lead the meeting and have decorum and make sure that decorum is held. And she's the one pounding the table and telling me this, swearing at me.
Because she's very passionate about this.
Yes. And then she started crying. And then she left the room and cut off the cameras. The live feed. The cameras were still on. Then she came back in. People still discussed things, and then we adjourned. And she told me after that to go to hell. So this is the kind of exchange I had with our mayor. She really has hatred towards me. You can tell it's just there. I'm not allowed to speak. She censured me for 8 months last year. Her whole 2 years she's been there, she's not accomplished one thing because we were in court practically all last year. This year she's done really nothing. And now she's into this whole task force since February that no one knew about. It was a bad exchange. And I'm not playing victim, but I've never had somebody say that to me in my life.
Well, is it just me, or do we throw around terms like racist, fascist, Nazi, all things I get called?
Right.
Do we throw those terms around to the point where they don't mean anything anymore? Or they're thrown around so casually.
Right.
It's like any exchange of disagreement becomes, oh, you're just a Nazi. You're just a racist because I'm disagreeing with how to go about a problem.
Exactly.
Or if a problem actually exists.
And we don't know that. The task force was to find out if we had a problem.
Oh, so it's like a special counsel. You're investigating in search of a crime.
Do you know, is this... Like Andrew said, he was in charge of the task force for the city codes in Crystal. We have some friends that are on the comprehensive plan task force out in Big Lake, and that is not being chaired by citizens. Those are a bunch of citizens, or so I've heard, sitting in a room and being led by city staff in the way that city staff wants to go. Is that kind of how this one is shaping up, where city staff is framing the argument rather than the people coming to the city with the argument? Do we know?
I think because only the mayor and the city manager are the ones meeting with these people, it's not so much staff as a whole, but it's the city manager definitely that has his hands in it. And then he started with, maybe we should print everything in 5 different languages, or we should. And I'm just not. That is one thing I don't believe we can do. You can always hit a button and everything will translate. But
so does the mayor have the authority to create a task force?
no, she had. Well, that's what she said to me too. You constantly tell me we're a body of 5, so this is why we are a body of 5.
But she should have come to you in February.
But she didn't, and she got the rest of them to say yes to this task force technically. And she said, you're going to say no to this. And I said, you don't know what I'm going to say. I said, because I didn't say you're going to form this task force.
Right.
I said, if we do this, I always said if we did this. I did not say if you do this, then this is going to happen. However, why are you doing something when you don't know the purpose of it yourself?
Right.
And if you do, then bring it to us prior to trying to make the task force.
I wonder if past election day this goes anywhere. Am I just the only negative person who thinks this might be not all that serious? Since February you can't define something?
It's going to happen. And the one council member who is not running again, Brian Stroop, said this has to happen now, sooner rather than later. And
now, or we're all going to fall off a cliff.
We're going to lose momentum.
Yeah, and yeah, I think that's exactly what he said. So it's more of, somebody said 6 months, do the task force for 6 months, like they always do with these task force. And I think that it would be curious for me that if the mayor loses and Brian's not coming back, will they pass something prior to? But it can be undone. I mean, it isn't like it can't be. So whether or not, we don't know. But it was uncalled for. And if I was on their side of the fence, usually I would say she was a bully, right? I should call her a bully, and so and play victim.
So it is a bullying tactic. I mean, shout somebody down and call them names and stuff. I mean, that's not a helpful discussion or doesn't get anywhere. And as the mayor, I mean, one thing people, you have a responsibility to not only represent others, but conduct yourself in a certain kind of manner. I'm not saying sacrifice what you believe in or anything, but if that's the kind of atmosphere you foster, you can't be surprised then when it gets turned around on you. We know all about that in Crystal.
Absolutely.
What atmosphere was created, and
when she first came into office, her number one thing was to bring civility to the council. Where's that?
Did she know somebody named Civility?
I don't know.
Well, those campaign promises, you just forget those.
Right. They're not that important.
I'm not going to forget any of mine.
You should have taken a snapshot of that or something, and civility to the.
Well, that and people died from our water, so that was her second one.
People died from the water in
That's
New
what she
Brighton?
said last time when she ran, and that never happened.
They choked to death after taking a shower and accidentally swallowing something?
She said they got cancer and died.
Really?
So we're hopeful that the person who is running against her, please vote for Sharon Duffing. and so we're hoping that we're back. But there is an open seat, correct? So what does that mean? Usually that's a good thing to have.
Absolutely.
And
you're getting a new council member no matter what.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, so I would say this. I mean, right now there's a lot of 4-1. We could make that 3-2 in most cases.
And make sure the residents don't die from the water. And
that's true.
Now, are residents going to keep dying?
Well, nobody's died, so I'm not sure. I'm not really sure what that was all about.
But just to quell people's fears out there,
yes.
You guys are going off the system, right? From buying water from the Mississippi, from Minneapolis?
Off Minneapolis water, back into the New Brighton wells. Sometime in 2018, and the water is safe. I don't know how many times You have to tell people that, but the water is safe.
And I believe the people of New Brighton are smart that way. They understand that. They know what's happening. It really wasn't unsafe prior to this. It was just, when the Minnesota Department of Health has a certain measurement, it was only California and us that had the smallest of small measurement that we had to do this. So it's safe. It's going to be transitioned and...
So problem solved.
Problem solved.
And it's kind of been a good thing because they're testing our water all the time.
Yeah.
So
you're getting reassurance after you're getting a second opinion, a third opinion, a fourth opinion.
That's good.
And you know what? You want your drinking water safe. It is something that people are concerned about, and you want to be concerned, but we don't have to be or have that concern any longer. We just have to hope.
Nor do we need the scare tactics.
No.
I mean, the scare tactics are ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, we went through this in Crystal where, what if an oil tanker drives through the city or something? Our old city engineer was just an environmentalist nut job. So told me to quit watching Fox News once. So I don't know why he didn't like me. I was so nice. I just don't get it. So.
But yeah, anyways, so instead of 4-1, I mean, we could be looking at some 3-2 votes. I mean, there's
even 4-1 the other way.
We could be 3-2 the other way. So if we get the mayor out, and if Sue and I win, there's our 3 votes.
Oh, that's great.
That would be, and I think this is a great opportunity for New Brighton. Like I said, no, we're not saying we're right all the time, but we're going to do it. We will do what's right. And I know that we will allow others to speak and have an opinion because you're all voted in, and there's a reason to that, which means if someone votes for Sue and she's there, they want to hear her voice, just like they want to hear anyone else's, even if it's an opposing voice. It's still laid out on the table, and that's what's entitled. But I think we could. I'm excited. I think that we have this chance that if the citizens really see what's going on at this time, especially with this mayor,
they're going to see it. Put it that way.
Yeah, we will link to that meeting on the blog.
We'll do some fun stuff with it.
Yeah,
absolutely. So citizens of New Brighton have a chance to change direction.
Yeah.
I mean, it is something that you can't pass up on that opportunity. I tell you, the chance to change something does not happen much. Your mayor has a 2-year term, right? So
because of the lawsuit.
Yeah. So you pesky lawsuit, you. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
So the mayor is always up every 2 years and 2 council people. So there's always a chance to change over. Technically, majority are up every time.
Right.
So we have that chance again. You people of New Brighton, you got to pay attention when we talk here. You got one person to re-elect, another person to elect, and another person to elect. Just remember that.
Yes.
When you're going there. November 7th, find your polling place. Heck, you can go down to City Hall and vote today, right?
Yes.
I don't like that.
I don't like that much either.
I know.
I don't like that either.
What if you get somebody knocks on your door after you voted? Isn't that...
Yeah. I don't know.
Pretty soon we're going to be voting in July. I mean, it's I fear that that's what's going to keep happening.
Yeah.
I had heard that in 2016, 22% of the electorate nationwide voted before Election Day. Because of...
That's a lot.
Yeah, because of early voting, because it's different state to state a little bit. And a lot of states don't have same-day registration and things like that, so Minnesota's in the minority on that. The majority of states don't. Even California doesn't have it.
Right.
So a lot of people vote before election.
And if you think about it, Minneapolis is our biggest city, and they have an election this year. And if that doesn't impact people, I mean, all these people running for that, and I hear really different things happening in that city. So,
St. Paul.
Yeah, and so it is, what do you do as a candidate that can form? So that's why we were proactive. Got out there by the 22nd, and I don't know. I don't know what you heard, but I didn't hear too many people real excited about voting right away.
No, most of the people that I talked to when I said, voting starts Friday. Oh, I'm waiting till election day.
Yeah, but we do, I have to say, we do have some people who like to vote early. I mean, we've already taken away, we're going to have a license bureau now in an actual driver's license now you can get in New Brighton starting November 1st, we're hoping. And so, construction's going on, so they were used to using those rooms down there in the chambers, so now we've had to have our meetings changed, but they're up there. I mean, they're voting. People are coming in to vote. So it's amazing, but I don't know how you know people in that short period of time.
Yeah, it's really hard, and I think that's an important point. I mean, you want somebody to represent you, but yet you don't know them when you go to vote, and I think that's really hard, and especially in nonpartisan elections, because I mean, there's not a party to stand on. You're going based on what somebody believes is best for your city, and that takes time.
Mm-hmm. It does. Yeah. So we haven't seen any other. That's one night. We haven't seen anybody else out there.
No other signs.
No other council. How about the mayor's race? Is that?
I don't think she goes door knocking. I don't know if she does or not. She says she does, but a lot of things she says is. Whatever.
Yeah. She just knocks at her neighbor, borrows sugar, comes back, knocks at her neighbor. That's door knocking.
Well, I mean, she probably does get some help from one of the major political parties.
Well, the SEIU and the IBEW. Unions as well. Unions and that kind of thing. But I don't see... my neighbors, I know that, sometimes they'll avoid your door, right? They'll avoid my door.
Yeah.
But
see me coming to a door, they avoid everything.
Yeah, but my neighbor, no one that I know of has received anything.
No one has seen anybody.
Mm-hmm. So I know people go out 2 weeks before the election a lot of times and try and do that, but really, is that...
Wow.
How much do you really...
It gets dark at 5 o'clock.
But how much do you really care? How much did you really... what your time and how passionate are you really when you run for an office if you're just going to do it for 2 weeks?
Yeah,
exactly. Well, can I ask? I don't know if you know off the top of your head what the vote totals were, like the number of people that voted in
2000. In the 15 race, it was about 4,000 people.
Okay.
So that was a levy year too. Now we have a levy this year, so we know it could be even it could be even more this year.
Okay.
So it's it's not a lot, but it's not in a city of ours, it's not that big of a city, and it's still there. I mean, it's still a good. It's not a couple hundred people. It's not a couple thousand people. It's usually right around that.
Okay.
We're just hoping for correct vote totals.
Yeah, that's another show sometime.
We'll have a show on that too. All right. Well, why don't we wrap this up then?
Yeah.
I'll just throw it to the two of you again. Any final comments? Again, where can we find you? Get out and vote November 7th.
Absolutely. Susan Erickson. I want to be your next council member. You can reach me. My email is email2sue@comcast.net. And my phone number is 651-285-7319. Call me, email me, I will respond to you. I'll probably tell you the truth even though you might not want to hear it.
So just to clarify,
people say they want the truth, but they often don't.
That's true. Just to clarify now, that's email and the word 2, not the number 2.
Correct.
Okay.
Email TOSUE.
Great.
Yes.
Okay, Gina.
Yeah.
And I just want to thank the voters of New Brighton, and hopefully I can serve them for another term. You can reach me at Gina Bauman at Comcast.net, Gina Bauman for Council on Facebook. I'm going to start doing YouTube. My daughter's 22. We're going to try and do some YouTube on there.
Good.
And then my phone number is 651-636-9526.
Now, how many council people give their phone number out? I never did when I ran.
Really?
No, I knew who would call me, but I didn't want them to call me.
Yeah, some do. I think, you probably had a good reason not to. But
Probably.
So, So get out there and vote. Mobilize. If it's just the regular people who go out and vote, and you think you can take a year off because it's an off year, you're going to keep getting what you've already got. Otherwise, you get out there and you vote for Gina, you vote for Sue, you vote for Sharon Doffing, and
this thought just came.
Yeah.
Profound thought.
Yes.
The world is run by who shows up.
Yes.
I think I said that first.
You think you said that first?
I think I did.
Okay.
Like an apple a day keeps the doctor away.
That's
Who
yours
said that?
too.
Who said that?
I never knew.
I don't know. A penny saved, a penny earned. Who said that? How did that get popular? I don't know.
Bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. Same thing. Anyways. It's getting late. I think it's time to.
I gotta think about that one.
Yeah, I never got that one either.
Well, thank you so much.
Yes, very much. You guys are great.
No, we enjoy this. I mean, you know, finding out what's happening in a city from somebody running, somebody there is invaluable to us as we go around statewide and consult and try to get like-minded folks to serve, not just in office, but on commissions and volunteer. Not everybody's made to be a candidate. Like I've said before, and we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
I got into politics because I thought I was destined to be the governor.
Right.
And I ended up talking about lease revenue bonding and street aid, and that's not what I set out to do. But it became a calling. It became something in your blood, to do. So that's what I do now. Not saying I won't run for governor in the future, probably won't, but it's all still out there. But for now, I mean, this is in my blood. It's in your guys' blood to do this, to serve, and that is where both of you belong, and that's where you're both going to be November 7th. That's my prediction, and I haven't been wrong since the last time we did a podcast. So there's no way I'm going to be wrong here.
Well, it takes guys like you really to get this word out, because like we said before, how do you do it? But it's with podcasts like yours, and just you going around to different functions and having your comedy little skit, and that's always
believe it or not, we don't
Thank
rehearse.
You. No, we don't.
It's all just
it works.
It's 10 years of having to look at each other. And,
that's maybe the worst part.
Well, thank you.
Yes, thank you. And like they said, if you want to get a hold of us to be able to have us speak to your group and come out and, we do consulting, we do whatever, get a hold of us. If something's going on in your city, you want to run for something, COMMsolutionsMN@gmail.com, COMMsolutionsMN@gmail.com. This podcast will be up on our blog, COMMsolutionsMN.com, very shortly. So make sure to share if you like it. And why would you withhold this kind of information?
That's a lot of things that we could make a limerick out of that. COMMNN. What did you say? I don't know.
Why am I
that's
the only one
that's
that can
why
say
you
this?
always do that stuff.
Yeah.
I can never remember that.
Boy.
You just want to give out your phone number.
Yeah, pretty much. That's all. 976. No, I'm just kidding. No, there's always 555 in a movie.
Right,
It's
right.
like 555.
Anyways, no, this has been good. Get a hold of us. And on behalf of Andrew Richter and our guests from New Brighton, I am Jason Bradley. We are Community Solutions. We love you, Minnesota. Now it's your turn. Get out there and get to work.
Get too caught